Council on Aging.
Good evening.
So please identify yourself for the record.
I'm Patrice Russ. I'm the Director Outreach Case Manager down at the Douglas Adult Social Center.
So Patrice, tell us what's on your mind.
So I've had a really, really, really busy year this year. I never think about it because we're just busy every day, and the bus has added a whole new dynamic to that because the scheduling is very tedious. It can take up to 12 to 15 hours a week just for that. Moving people, making sure everybody's in and out, changing things because medical comes first, and so on. So that's been not a challenge, it's been an exciting endeavor, I should say. Jennifer is doing most of the scheduling. Too many hands in the pot it can get really confusing down there, so I only put people in if I absolutely have to, if she's not there. So that's taken up a pretty good amount of time, plus the confirmation calls, the phone's ringing off the hook. We used to just have one little phone line, and then everything else went to the answering machine, and now we have 4 phone lines. So it's busy, yeah. So at the end of the year, usually in the late December, early January, when we get a little bit of break from the holidays and such, and it quiets down for a minute, we pull our statistics from the My Senior Center program. And then Jennifer takes that and puts it against everything that's been handwritten, because we have sign-up sheets and such. And when she did that, she was actually working from home that day, and she said, "You are not going to believe these numbers," because I haven't seen them. And I did attach them here. Our growth is just so unbelievable. Oh, double and triple in some cases. I mean, on a good year, you know, we'd have maybe 15 or 20 new seniors that might come in sporadically for something. Oh, no, not this year. It was 276, I think. So up from 50 last year. When we do the attendance part of it, that is the seniors that come in out of the center. Those are duplicated people, some. You know, we might have 300 to 400 regular people, but they're duplicated because they might come in for multiple things in one day or multiple things in a week. But to go from 2,840 to 5,597, it's just insane. And we are small down there, you've seen it. Mm-hmm. So we have the small conference room, which we can't use now for anything. We do the newsletter in there. We have my back office, which Nurse Ann uses to do the blood pressure clinic. We have a small room in the middle that we have the card group in. Well, somebody wanted to play pitch, so we put it in the newsletter. Anybody want to play pitch? We have 13 or 14 people stuffed in this room every Thursday morning because I have a yoga class going on in the main room. So now we're going to have to start changing times of activities because we can only use the main room. Mm-hmm. I'm cutting all of the functions off, like the parties at 50 people, because that's what's safe. To be able to move around. Some people do like to dance at the socials if we have a band, for walkers, for wheelchairs, because I only have 2 bathrooms and I only have 12 parking spaces. So the van has helped with the parking issue, but we've become so big that our space is an issue, our parking lot's an issue, and the staffing is now an issue. So I did request an extra $5,000 this year, if possible, just to be able to cover some extra hours, because we did a New Orleans themed party for Valentine's Day. It was just Jennifer and myself. We do all the cooking, so we make everything from scratch down there. So with all the food shopping, with all the cooking, serving all the people, and we had to get a new dishwasher this year, which I used my gift account, because we have to have a sanitization system per the Board of Health and such. It can do a load of dishes in 3 minutes. So in order to recoup the cost of the dishwasher, we were like, we have all glass plates and silverware down there. So essentially, we're running a little mini restaurant. So it took another 2 hours to clean the kitchen after the party. So needless to say, Jennifer and I were pretty tired that day. So to have an extra person, if I can have my per diem come in for the big events, and have the part-time Jill there, and Jennifer and myself, because like I said, we're doing all the cooking, the food shopping, the cleaning, and I pretty much do everything down there but sing. We don't provide all the entertainment, just some of it. So I did ask for that, just for some extra hours. The state did give us $14 per senior this year, and they're still going by the census from, what was it, 2020? Was it 2020 census? 20, yeah, okay. So we've only received half of it to date. Things are very strange now. We used to write the grant in the summer, and we would have the funding usually in September, October. Then we would send out the annual report. Now, they'll let us spend the grant on anything we want. We don't have to tell them, it just has to be purpose for the senior center or the seniors or the van and so now they're requiring just the annual report, which now we send out in January. But we'd only got half the payment, and we haven't gotten the other half yet. So I know we're getting it, I'm just not sure when it's coming. And that I use for all the exercise classes, the craft classes. It pays for the cell phone for the van, some basic office supplies, and just things that we need around the center, but I'm able to carry it over. So because I'm able to carry it over, I don't have to in June say, oh my gosh, I need to spend $2,000 and try to find something to buy. So I do like that idea of not having to just spend it. Right, so we can save it for another day. We do offer all of our services at the senior center for free. A lot of the other senior centers now are charging. It's become very difficult for the seniors now to pay $3 for an exercise class every day, $4 to $5 to $6 someplace, or $8 for lunch. And to be able to join in any of the crafts or anything else. So we do offer some crafts that you pay for, but I offer a free craft every month. And we do offer our lunches $4 if you can afford it, and anything over $4 the Sunshine Club pays for. So that's been really, really nice. But people are flocking from everywhere to come to our senior center now because everybody else is charging for exercise. It's not a problem yet, but if it means that my Zumba class has 30 people in it and it's only safe with 20, then the out-of-towners know that my seniors have first choice. So. But yeah, so it's been a very exciting year, but extremely busy, so.
So Patrice, you mentioned you asked for $5,000 more?
Yep.
So I'm looking at the spreadsheet for total council of aging. It looks like it's up for 4 for next year.
I'm not sure the 5,000 is reflected in here.
I think that's cost of living and
That's
merit.
just the current staff.
Yeah,
So remember, the Finance Committee received a prelim budget. for
Right.
that. There have been some requests or adjustments the departments have requested that are not reflected in here.
So as we look at all the numbers on this major thing, are some of them not accurate then?
It's not that they're accurate, it's a fluid, it's a budget, so it's a fluid document.
Okay.
You received the first version of that document.
I see. And then Patrice, I'm just looking at the budget line items. What in here would reflect the van?
the fuel and the part-time, there's 3 part-time drivers.
Okay. The van's all paid for, though, is
The
that?
van is paid for.
Yeah.
Yep.
okay.
And actually, we received a earmark grant for $15,000. It was supposed to be $30,000, but they gave us $15,000.
Okay,
So we'll be able to move some of that expense over, which will allow us to use the $15,000 for additional capital, as pay-as-you-go capital.
so is this proposed 152, 141 for 2025 going to be different then? By like another 1,000 or something, is that right?
Well, if
By another,
Patrice
by an additional
received-
5,000.
If she received her request, it'd be by additional $5,000. But again, that's
4, you're saying increase, the 4,000 increase is part of the increase in salary
correct.
Yes.
For the
Cost of
current
living.
staff.
for the current
Yeah.
staff. Yes.
Okay, I'm just asking. Because when you said you asked for 5,000 more, what's reflected here is only 4,000 in your budget, so. So those numbers are fluid, in other
The
words.
numbers
huh?
are fluid, and her request came in, again, after you received this initial document.
Okay. Any questions for Patrice, anybody?
I have one. Could you talk a little more about the van? How many days a week is it running? What's this, is there, when we talked about it hypothetically, when we were talking about, we were thinking maybe a day for medical, a day for grocery, is that kind of still the plan? I'm just curious to hear a little more, but I see it parked here on the weekends when I come from basketball, so it's always,
So the van is on the road from Monday through Friday. It goes to Drs Appointments anytime Monday through Thursday.
Okay.
Fridays, it goes to grocery stores, prescriptions, if somebody wants to go to the bank. kind of stays local and brings people back and forth to the center. Brings people back and forth to the center every day also. It has done some exciting things. If you saw Sharon get her overachieved, was it Exceptional Service Award? We had a handicapped couple that was stuck, I think it was 2 weeks after the bus went on the road. They were stuck on the side of the road, and the man was in a powered wheelchair. He was a paraplegic, so there was no getting him out of the van, and she stepped in and grabbed our van and went up and helped the police. After they had exhausted every resource they had, because they called multiple places, and then they were like, wait a minute.
Right.
So, and we've had a lot of success with the van. I did do the numbers, so if you look at the WRTA, we call our bus the Road Runner, right?
Yep.
So the WRTA did 854 rides the whole year. And in the first 7 weeks we're on the road, we did 258. So it's definitely being utilized. It's going up, in January it was about 131. About 10% or 12% is medical. Word is getting around now.
Yeah.
So I would say every month we're getting more and more people now riding for medical appointments, because it is going back and forth to Dana-Farber, which is very well sought after in the town. And so far, we've had 188 for February, which I assume that will only change by 1 or 2 because we're almost done. Almost done with February. So, and then it can go, if somebody had a request and said, I need to go pick up my prescription on the way home from the doctor, it's really nice because they can stop and do that if they don't have anything else they're rushing back to. So
Right.
the seniors have really enjoyed having that kind of service and not being just on a regular kind of bus line. So it's been really an asset, and like I said, now the senior center is full. But the nice part is we have a lot of people that are over at Middlebrook that couldn't walk to the senior center, even though it's close, because they're either handicapped or they're on oxygen. They don't drive anymore themselves. So we have a whole group that comes over to the senior center a couple days a week, and it's been really great for them, and for many other people that can't drive.
How many people could fit on the bus?
It's 14.
14.
Yeah, 12, and then 2 handicap spots, which have seats, or you can put a wheelchair in them. Yep.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
And for the doctor's appointments, do they just go to Milford, or do they go like to Worcester?
No, so we're not going anywhere that's already being done by WRTA, right? We are going food shopping and such, but we're not going to Worcester. But if somebody needed to go to Millbury, or down to Northbridge, or over to Mendon, or one of those, no problem. Yep.
So back to this fluid spreadsheet, if the 152, 141 that's budgeted for 25 isn't in fact the number, because the number is fluid, where would we see the most recent number? Because I can't see it on my computer.
This is, from my understanding, this is the most recent spreadsheet. You're going to hear that, like Patrice, you may hear that these numbers may change.
And in general, will they go up, the numbers?
And you can talk to Matt when he comes
Yeah.
in later.
Okay. Anybody else, questions for Patrice?
So I'm hearing that it's great that finally, our seniors are getting the support that they need, the services are there, but now you're going to be out of space. When do you think you're going to be out of space? Because I think you're there.
Last year.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so, I think that's one of our action items to be looking is for capital is where can we possibly move? Because I think you're going to be out of space sometime this year. You're going to be back talking to folks about your.
I'm trying just to enjoy the bus for the moment, but cause and effect, the bus has caused a little bit, but a lot of seniors, actually, a lot of people retired after COVID, right? Or were on the cusp of retiring and kind of hung in there working from home. So we have ladies sneaking over on their lunch hour to do a Zumba class or a yoga class, and we do have a very vibrant group of the pickleball players. A lot of them have joined the center also, and I think that our reputation is just stellar at this point, and word spreads. I mean, I have, seniors coming from other places, and our seniors go other places too. It's like a library. They can go anywhere, right, in the state. And we're very welcoming when you're at the senior center, the adult social center, your family to us. It's something we really enjoy and I think it has shown. And, Jennifer and Jill and Katie, the staff is exceptional, the bus drivers are all exceptional, and I think that everybody has that sense of warmth and family, and because of that, people are flocking in from everywhere, and, when you hear your family, that's all I say, we'll make as much room as we possibly can. So I don't want to turn anybody away. I don't card anybody at the door. I couldn't look at certain people and be like, are you from Webster? No, you're from Sutton. Or are you from Manchug? Like, I can't do that. But, because they've been our regulars, most of them for a long period of time.
Yeah.
But space is definitely a huge issue for us. But we're doing the best we can. I mean, we're going to be making probably 50 meals for St. Patrick's Day, and we're doing this in a residential kitchen. Jennifer and I are very well versed because we did 150 meals a day out of there during COVID. So we're pretty good at being able to do all that, but it is hard to do it. But I'm not trying to ask for anything we don't need, but sooner or later, yes, we're going to need a bigger space.
At what age?
60.
60.
Yep,
So with 10,000 baby boomers a day.
correct.
65.
Which is why you're seeing the 276 new people this year. Yeah.
So do people ever volunteer to help you in there?
Yeah, so we have the senior tax work-off. So we have the painting classes done under the senior tax work-off, and our newsletter is done under that. We have kids that come from the school during their vacation and such, and they volunteer. It's a lot of hustle. I mean, you got to be pretty quick to throw, 50 meals out to tables in a timely manner and such. So we do have some seniors that help us set up and take down, and our younger ones. And so, I mean, like I said, I did 18,000 steps before I left the senior center on Valentine's Day in 8 hours. I was like, not working out today, don't have to. So, and like I said, Jennifer and I have worked together in such a time where she had to be my left hand and I had to be her right, so we can just work effortlessly together. But now it's getting to the point, the phone has to go to voicemail. You can't answer the phone. You always need a set of eyes on the main room, so we both can't be in the kitchen, just in case anybody needs anything, or God forbid anybody, slipped, or, so, it's safety-wise, too,
Anybody else, questions for Patrice? All right, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, no problem, my pleasure, thank you.
Okay, Paul and Courtney, come to the table, please. Everybody get a chance to look at school department stuff?
Courtney, you can take the coffee chair. You don't want the coffee chair? No, you take the coffee chair.
I feel kind of funny. Yeah, there you go. Doesn't feel right.
So, Paul and Courtney, thank you for sending all that email to us to pass on to the FinCom.
No problem.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us
I
today.
had fun looking through all the school choice expenditures. I thought that was
You
pretty,
use the word fun?
yeah, that
All
was,
right.
that was pretty interesting.
Well, they're by chance, so, it's just lines that we pick.
And I guess, yeah, why don't we begin, Paul and Courtney, with, if you have a little presentation for us, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Certainly. So in front of you, you have our preliminary proposed budget, similar to what we presented to school committee.
Is it close to what we got in email last week or 2 weeks ago? Or is there, is it fluid?
It's
Oh, no.
fluid.
Well, wait.
Well-
No, this is the exact budget that was presented to the school committee.
But I don't know what you received 2 weeks ago.
Because I have a
It
preliminary.
was the same.
Okay, same budget,
that
okay,
They received,
okay.
that we presented to the school committee.
Okay, all
Yes.
right.
But he'll explain more about, we do have some more either reductions or whatever that we'll need to find a,
Sure.
but we're
So
in a good place.
as Courtney said, we're in a good place. You're going to hear us say some things you probably haven't heard from the school department in years. There's some optimism about this budget. There's some excitement about this budget, and we're in a good spot. Courtney did a great job putting it together, and it was a very good, solid, collaborative process with Mr. Wojcik in putting this together. So I want to thank him. I know he's not here, but we'll thank him when he comes. So we're really pleased to be presenting this. On the second page is our mission statement, and we always, before we do any meeting, present our mission statement. It's a statement of our beliefs, our values, and what we strive to do every day for our students. The next page is our blueprint, basically our strategic plan, and everything we do is focused around academic excellence, building those community partnerships, the well-being of all, creating good local and global citizens, and having that and promoting that growth mindset. For the past 3 years, you've heard me talk about an essentially level service budget. This year, we're really pleased to present a realistic real needs budget. Obviously, you can never have everything you want. So we're calling this a realistic real needs budget for FY25.
Which is the first time, if I may say, in the entire 12 years that I've been here, that we've been able to come this early in the process, too. So which is, we're very, very happy about.
So on the next slide is a bullet point of some of the things we've been able to add to our budget. And this is currently in the proposed budget, and we're excited about this for a lot of reasons. We've come to you with 4 positions in previous years, and we're very optimistic that we can maintain these for FY25. The first is an adjustment counselor / guidance counselor for the middle school. This position will help have students starting in the 6th grade create a 6 through 12 plan, a 7-year plan of what their career will look like in Douglas, but also help with the social emotional health of our middle school students. Secondly is the addition of a Stars and Stripes special education program teacher at the high school. This is targeted for that 18 to 22 population of students to make sure that we keep students in district instead of going out of district. Third position is a STEM teacher for the primary and the elementary school. STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. It's an extra special for students, so instead of 4 specials, they would have 5 specials. And again, it's great for our kids to start getting that excitement about science, technology, engineering, and math. Next is a grounds maintenance custodian. As people know, we have 39 acres. We have 1 outdoor person who works 4 hours a day to maintain 39 acres. It's impossible. So this added position will help outside and also inside. We're looking at adding an athletic trainer for the middle school and high school. It would be a shared position between the 2 buildings, someone who could come in and tape up our students, help with some physical activity, help triage some injuries, help with some physical therapy, be present at games, be present at practices. Next is Panorama Student Comprehensive Data System. Panorama is a program that takes all of our student information, whether it's MCAS, attendance, discipline, grades, benchmark assessments, and pulls it into one platform so teachers can have access to look at all student information in one platform instead of opening and closing all screens. Next, we have a district-wide remediation paraprofessional and tutors. This was originally funded through our ESSER funds through COVID. That money has ended, and we've seen a lot of benefit in pre-K through 12 in having these positions, kind of that Tier 2 intervention for struggling students. Textbooks are in the budget for various areas across the schools. We've always, we haven't always, but in recent years, we've had Chromebooks for the high school. With ESSER funds, we were able to purchase Chromebooks for our elementary and middle school. They're now 4 years old. They've lived their life expectancy. So we have leases in there for middle and elementary school students as in addition to high school. And finally, we have district-wide wage adjustments for our union and non-union staff personnel. Did I miss anything?
Just want to note that the Panorama Student Comprehensive Data System, we implemented it this year from a grant. And
Is that a
to go
company,
forward.
Panorama?
Panorama is a company, correct.
Is that a yearly fee?
It's a yearly fee,
How much is it?
17-ish, depending on which, yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is, what were some of our savings for the year? So we had 4 big buckets, so to speak. We have some district-wide special education savings in tuition reductions in the amount of $562,419. We have the reduction through attrition of 3 paraprofessionals/ABAs, I can't read without my glasses, $69,011. Our oil heating bid price reduction came in at $593,000, and then some retirements. So it came to a total of $721,731 in savings, which helped offset
Substantially. Yeah,
substantially
Absolutely, yeah.
some of our costs. Next page is our summary as of 2/27, very fluid, it changes, but as of where we are right now at this moment in time. So just to go through it, our FY24 general fund budget appropriation at offsets was $14,918,771. Our additional appropriation from the town for FY25 was $425,081, bringing our total preliminary town appropriation to $15,343,852. Our FY25 preliminary proposed budget is $18,444,279. At this moment in time, given what we know right now, at this exact moment in time, with all the information we have, barring any tragedies, barring anything awful, we've been able to use grants and revolving funds to offset the budget in the amount of $2,863,449, which brings our general fund preliminary budget to $15,580,830, and our budget delta at this point is $236,978. And that's the work we have between now and our public hearing next month to reduce the $236,978.
So we'll be doing that with a combination of, so when all of the leadership team submits their budget, and I put it in, and then we do go through a first reduction with Paul and I meeting with people and kind of just looking at data, trends, and historical data. And we did already make some reductions prior to getting here, but we did send out another document. I am waiting for another round to take another really good look at every single line in the budget. And also, as Paul indicated, by the time we get to the school committee budget public hearing, which is the first Wednesday in April, we'll be closer to June 30th. So I take another look at, project the general fund, school choice, see if any more, well, hopefully, get any more tuitions in, things of that nature, or anything, barring anything happening. Then I can, because I'm closer to June 30th, then I can kind of feel more comfortable about increasing, possibly increasing use of our various revolving funds. But like we said earlier, we both feel very confident we can absolutely do that. And this is the first time in 12 years that we've been in this place. I mean, at this juncture, with just the preliminary budget, normally we are looking at $1,750,000 minimum to reduce and find the money, up to $1 million. We're at $236,000. I mean, that is phenomenal. And again, for the first time ever that I can remember, you don't know, for 12 years I put in computers, put in textbooks, and you know how I said we put it in, then we have to take it out. Then we have to see how we close out the year, and then, see how school choice looks at the end of the year when everything's said and done, and then we say, okay, it looks okay, you can purchase your textbook. And right now, we still have everything in here that we haven't had for many years. So we are so pleased. I mean, it's just, if you just one more thing, and I know through my MASBO, my MASBO listserv, things keep coming through all across the state. That's the Massachusetts Association of School Business Officials. And, about the sky falling and 25 sky falling. And even when I looked at it, I said, wait a minute, I must be missing something. So I looked at everything over and over and over again, because it's just looking very good. And we really, I know, I'm sorry, after 12 years, I think I can celebrate a little bit.
She's a little PTSD.
And we're also very, very pleased as well. I want to accentuate what Dr. Vieira has also said about the town as well, and their additional investment, more than what we typically, we're very, very pleased with that. And it didn't require any, it was just a nice collaborative, meeting and discussion, and we were very pleased with what we got. I'm just very happy. I can't say it enough, I'm sorry. I'll stop there.
It was great. And again, we've heard the word moving the district forward, moving the district
Yeah,
forward, moving the
right.
district. And this here
Yes.
is a first step in really moving the
We
district
really
forward.
feel like we're
And there are
doing it,
things in
yeah.
here that are going to help students out,
Yeah.
they're going to help staff out, and they're going to help the community out, and we're really pleased. Before we dive into the, yeah, go ahead, questions.
So Paul or Courtney, the grant amount, the 2.8 million, is that high or low compared to other years historically? Or is that kind of normal for us?
Let me see
I'll let
here.
Courtney answer, but
Because again, at this juncture, by the time we get to the end, it's usually increased. Let's see, okay, from prior years. I just have the, it just says use of revolving funds. So in FY '24, it was $3,120,333.
Oh,
So
okay.
just a little bit, but again, these accounts, you have to really know the ins and outs. And it's a lot because of my institutional knowledge of, I have to know, like for the operating budget part, what happens generally throughout, the ebbs and flows throughout the year. You only get that from institutional knowledge and feelings of what's going on. And also doing this, hope that you don't get a move in or something like that, or things don't happen. For instance, when I first put together this whole budget, two things happened, and I'm not making this up. Within 2 days, I got some stuff from Jeff, $85,000 in repairs that we had to get done. We had to do it. From inspections, had to get done. And then I also got notified from the SED director that we had an elementary, a new special education, even though we had these big reductions, because the original reduction on that special ed reduction was much higher. But I had to lower it, but we're still very happy with it. But that's already incorporated in the budget. And so you're always doing this, and that's why, hence why we have to be careful, prudently conservative with particularly circuit breaker, although we're using a lot of circuit breaker in school choice.
we won't find out for a
We're
lot
gonna-
of, grants until end of
Yeah.
July.
I see.
So a lot of the grant,
August, yeah.
Title I, Title
Yeah.
II, Title III, Title IV, Title II, 2A,
Well, actually,
240.
Title I, we did get some preliminary
Preliminary
information. It's been
information.
cut in half. But I've already accommodated. I'm glad I got that information early. I've already taken care of that within the budget. I've already accommodated for it. So I was happy that I could accommodate that. So, again, and even for the preschool, that's a revolving fund. That program has been going so well that we've been able to, increase the number of spots, although it also depends on the ones that we're required to have for special ed, for early intervention. But just things seem to be going very well. And that's another thing I'm very happy about. We had the post-COVID, COVID, post-COVID. I feel like we're going on a kind of a trajectory of
Away from
positive and away from
Yeah.
COVID. And, there's still some things trying to find people, but we see more positive, a lot more kids taking advantage of the after-school programs and things of that nature, too. So I feel, everybody feels great about that. It's great for the students.
Any other questions at this point in the presentation? Anyone?
I have a quick one.
Okay, Ryan.
What are the drivers of this tuition reduction? Is it just more expensive students graduating to adulthood, or is there something else driving that?
Now, do you remember all of them?
I do.
Okay, go right ahead.
It's a fact of
Yeah.
students either graduating, aging out, going into different programs, trying to protect the anonymity of our student population, but it's changes in placements.
Okay.
Yep.
And we think those placements will continue, I know we don't know, but we're estimating those placements will continue in the future, so these costs won't necessarily.
The placements that we have here, as you know from work and recording, we're not putting anything in there that we don't know is an indefinite
Okay.
going forward. So based off of what we know right now in those reductions, with the population, with the students involved, we're confident of where we're at. They get protected their anonymity. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And again, that's why in the circuit breaker, I have that I created that line to show, and I call it contingency for the reason that it kind of puts it right out there, that we're mindfully putting some funds aside in case we have a move-in as well. Yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Sandy.
So the grounds maintenance custodian, it's like you're adding, right now, what do we have exactly for, you're adding one FTE?
Yes, one FTE. So currently, we have 10 FTEs, although we haven't been fully staffed for over 2 years now. So we're hoping that we can find this person. We're having a hard time right now finding people to fill the positions that we have.
You have 10 FTEs?
Yes,
for your-
currently.
Oh, and you want to add one,
One more.
even though you're not fully staffed right?
Oh, no, because we need all those 10 plus this original.
Okay.
We do need that. I mean,
So
we.
you're looking to go to the 11?
Exactly.
Correct.
That's correct.
And how we're back, so right now, the struggle is
Oh, yeah.
filling second shift, because
Yeah.
the 8 to 4, the 6 to 2 shift isn't too difficult to fill. Having someone to fill the 2 to 10 shift
Yeah.
is the struggle, so what we end up having to do to fill that shift is paying people overtime to come in and clean the buildings in the afternoon, because we need the buildings clean for when the students and staff return the next day, so
And
we're
some
doing that.
subs as well. Luckily,
And we have some
retiree working
subs
4 hours
too,
a
but
day, every day.
The big things,
Yeah.
the outdoor grounds at the .4 position is just,
That doesn't, 0.5, yeah.
Okay.
.5, sorry,
Yeah, it
yeah.
doesn't work,
I think
yeah.
4 hours, .5,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then athletic trainer, what level are they brought in at?
In terms of,
Like, I don't want to say
That's the same.
salary, but what step, grade, where?
so it's put in the budget as a stipend position. I don't have the dollar amount here. I don't know
I
if
think it's
Courtney
10.
has it.
I think it's
But it would be someone who would come in and work. And again, our athletic directors, both at the middle and the high school, and principals work on that. But they would work that 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock timeframe.
So they're not an FTE, they're a half it?
There would be a stipended position, much like our coaches are stipended positions, or,
I
yeah.
understand, okay,
Okay.
thank you. And then on the district remediation, is that a position, or is that just kind of spread out?
Those are current positions that we have
Okay.
in the budget, the paraprofessionals who are doing that. The high school, they're tutors because that's done after school. But they're current positions that we have that are being funded through the ESSER grant.
Okay.
That grant's going away, so in order to continue having not only those people employed, but the program in place,
Okay.
we needed to fund that through the operating.
So we'll see that on here is like, not like a grant covering it anymore, that amount will go to zero, and then it will come into what we have to cover.
Oh, it's already all incorporated
It's
in the
in
budget.
there.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Mhm.
But that's a driver, it's driving it up.
Correct.
That's correct.
Driving the number up.
And Sandy, in answer to your question, it's actually, I just looked up, it's 35,000 we had budgeted. In prior years, it was at 10,
Okay,
so it's 35,000 in the budget for the athletic trainer.
Okay.
For both schools. Mhm.
thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I have one more question.
Go ahead, Sandy.
You mentioned computers before, where is that, like, you had to put them in, take them out? Where is computers in the budget now, you have not had to take them out?
Correct.
For the
No,
first-
and where
they're
would we
in
find
there
that
and
in-
Staying in there.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
And where would we find that in the budget?
That's in, because they're leases, so it depends on the school.
Their leases?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
So,
Yeah.
I can tell you
So
the
look
function
at the
code.
lease numbers.
Yep.
Yep, and I actually have it, you'll see it here, I even have them bolded too. So they're in the function code 2451, but you see it right there. You know how I put the notes? That's why I know it's an extraneous document, but that's why I do that.
Yeah.
It says it right there, Chromebook lease, 300 students.
Okay,
Yeah, that's for the middle school, but you'll also see it in the high school and the elementary school as well.
okay, very good, thank you so much.
Yep, no problem.
All right.
Anybody else? Questions?
Okay.
Okay, carry on.
Can I just,
ahead.
just to see if I'm following the math at this step? So Courtney, if I take this page, right, the one FY '25 preliminary budget summary, I'm taking last year's number, appropriation net of offsets, the 14,918, right? I'm multiplying it by the 2.85%, which is what, hold on, which is what the town would not have suggested is the number that the town will have available.
No, that's the increase over the FY '24, the appropriation that we received in the
That's-
end last year.
Last year.
Yeah, and actually, you'll see that at the last page of the budget document with all the details, that has every single part of the calculations right here.
Hold on, this says percent increase over
FY '24.
24.
Yep, appropriation,
So this is
yep.
425, right?
Yep.
This is your anticipated
Yep.
increase,
Yep,
24 to
Yep,
25.
over the 24, yep.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
correct.
this number over this number, I get about that, 15,344 is your target number, and you're saying at the moment, with everything you have on the other page in, you're at 15,580.
Yep,
Needing
net,
to come down to 236. Is that the right
Yeah,
read?
that's
So
the
with
amount we have to
everything-
come to, yeah.
So with everything in
Yeah.
from the other page, everything you're hoping to be able to cover, you're at 15,580 with a recognition you want to hit 15,344.
Oh, I
because-
actually have to look at my
yeah,
own.
that number's not on the picture, right?
We have to
That's
hit the appropriation number.
Yeah,
Yep.
the 14,918,771
No, the 15
times the 2.85% increase. That's
No,
been-
we have to hit the town appropriation number, 15,343,852.
Oh,
It's a
yeah,
dollar
okay, yeah,
amount.
it's
We
the
don't go
same.
by a percentage,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's the same.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
okay.
just have to come up with
That's my rough math, yeah.
236,978.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have to come up with the
Okay.
236,978, either by reductions
Okay.
and/or additional use of revolving funds
But
is what
at
it
the
would be.
moment,
Yeah.
you're 236,978 up and over where you want to be with these things already in, right? And you have to figure out where to pull 236 back
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
down.
which is-
Across the board.
Correct.
But a
Correct.
much smaller number at this stage. Oh my
God, yeah. Oh,
We've been around a million, we've been around,
Yeah.
Mostly already in.
and already in, where other times we didn't
Okay.
even have it in, and we
Okay.
still were looking, yeah,
Great,
yeah, so
great,
this
great
is,
work.
this is.
I know you think this
great.
sounds too good to be true, but
Yeah, I
yes.
know.
It's a nice set of numbers.
It's nice to hear.
Right?
That's why we're happy.
It's nice to hear, it's nice to talk about, it's nice to hear about, it's nice to think about.
Can I ask, and
You know?
I look at times on the academic side, was there anything else on the academic side that you thought competed for space with the somewhat administrative positions that are projected in here?
What administrative
Counselor.
positions?
You've got a counselor, you've got a special ed program teacher, the maintenance person is a new full-time admin position.
Yeah, so-
effectively,
so the
But a
coun-
recognized necessary thing you guys feel you
So
need.
the counseling position,
I'm not going to second guess that.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
I don't see that. If I use the word admin, I didn't
Okay.
mean it in that regard with that
Oh.
position.
the Stars and Stripes program, it's,
We're good there.
okay, you got that one?
Well,
Okay.
I think I'm just saying, in addition to what you've got in here for, we're 236 over, were there any other, you've got a STEM half
Yeah.
position in here, were there any other, we've talked in the last 5 or 6 years
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
other academic programs that we really want to get into our system to be on the leading edge, developing our programs to draw in kids maybe from other school or school districts. Was there anything else that came close to coming into these?
For this year,
list?
not yet. One thing we've been able to do is we started Project Lead the Way.
Yes.
We started Project
That's the
Lead the
same
Way
thing.
this year. So Project Lead the Way is, it's a pathway for engineering, for biomedical, and for computers. We're in year one of Project Lead the Way. Next year, we're in year two. So far, we've been able to, with our internal staff, be able to run those. We might get to the point, if we go in a
Okay.
different pathway, or we get to running classes in years 3 and 4, we may need to reallocate staff or do some
Okay.
different things to fund that at the high school level.
But at the moment, you're feeling like staff you have is able to help you expand
Correct.
programs and fields as well.
Correct.
Yep,
Okay,
we were able
great.
to implement it, and they went to training, and
Great.
we
Okay.
funded the training, and,
Okay,
yep, they were very, very enthusiastic about doing it.
great, thank you. Ms.
Yeah.
Brown.
And the last few slides quickly is the budget summary, and I just like to have this for people to see. If you look at the first two numbers, salaries and other compensation and contractual services, special education tuition, building maintenance, make up 92% of our budget. So before we start, 92% is accounted for. The other 8% are utilities, which again, you need to have, supplies and others. So just a little graphic there for the Finance Committee to take a look at that. 92% of our budget, like most budgets, is again in contractual obligations. As Mrs. Keegan said, we're optimistic that through additional line item review, use of revolving funds, potential increase in town appropriation, grants, will close that delta between now and our public hearing. But there's an excitement. You said it, it's refreshing to hear. When Mrs. Keegan was working in this, she must have come in my office 27 times.
She's not exaggerating.
I'm not exaggerating, saying, this almost is too good to be true. I have to go back and look at it.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I did
Courtney.
over
And
and
then 3 hours later, I'm coming up with the same number, but I'm going to go quadruple check. Okay, and we did that 3 times a day for about 2 weeks, and it always came back to the same number. We're like, wow, this is good. And so, and again, Matt, thank you for coming, but, you know, we mentioned to start the good collaborative process we had doing this, and thank you for your support with the budget and the additional town appropriation.
So before you leave the table, I'm just looking at the documents that you forwarded to me, which I forwarded to the committee. We've got a lot about school choice historically. We have the college university placement listing. We had the school choice revenues and so on and so forth. Does anybody have any questions for Paul or Courtney about those? Because I know there was some question about some of that, I think that led to you sharing that information with us. But did anybody have any questions about any of that material that was sent to you?
I just have one.
Okay, Ryan?
On the revolving fund sheet here, you sent a bunch of stuff, so it's just kind of a summary of the revolving funds since 2018. Why is the special education increment, what is that, and what?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. So what that is if we have, because this is school choice in, just to be clear, you know, it's the tuition students that we have in our district. So if they require special education services, we do receive a special education increment, an additional revenue. So I break it out because I don't want anyone to see the total number of $925 and think that's just the regular $5,000 regular tuition. And because that can vary a great deal, as you can see by looking at these numbers, depending on their services.
So that number is representative of, say, a special education student who comes to our district from Grafton or Uxbridge or something like that. And instead of getting $5,000 a student, we get more than that from the state.
That's correct, and it varies widely depending on the services.
Okay, and does that end up in the same budget line as the school choice in that we see?
I don't know if you mean my budget line, but it's a revolving fund?
The
So
same
it's-
revolving fund.
It has to be,
That's why I
yes,
included it.
yes.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you for asking.
Anybody else?
If I may.
Howard, thank you.
So year over year, we've also talked about just what the fees are in this proposed budget for the kids to participate in some of the sports programs. Do you know what the fee input for the kids is across the board on most of the programs? I know things like hockey are higher, but is it a participation fee about $225 this year?
No, I think, oh, boy,
school
I know, with all the numbers in my brain. Do you remember, was it 200, I think?
I thought it was 175.
Or even less.
I believe
It's less.
You're thinking
But
middle
it's the same, it's the same for
it's
all, for
about-
the high school, it's the
yeah.
same. It doesn't matter of the sport, they're all the same.
Okay.
Yeah, because we did
I
reduce
believe
it, you know.
the athletic boosters threw in $25 a student, I want to say, something like that.
I know,
Oh, no, we can't, yeah, we can't do that. Yeah, we can't do it that way.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood.
But your number, you think, is 175?
is it 175? Okay.
And is
Yeah.
anybody hearing?
I'm not part of the budget process.
And actually, just to, and I didn't know if you were aware of this, or all of you were aware of this, a few years back, I think when Mr. Means was here, we also structured it differently as well.
Yeah,
So we did put in the capped
Yeah.
student sport and thing
Right,
as
right,
well. So we
right,
also
right.
implemented that, and the school committee has maintained that structure as well.
Do we know if we're finding any kids not participating because they can't afford those fees?
I have not
Is
heard
that coming back
Yeah, I
toward you
don't-
guys at all?
I don't
You really hear
think
that?
so.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
and just so that you know, there is a fee waiver form, and if
Yeah,
they're
that's
eligible
fine.
for, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a
Okay.
process, let's
There's
just put it that way, there's a
manner
process.
To try to
Correct.
get all the kids that want to participate,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
fee waiver structure cost is built into your budget to be able to cover.
Yeah, we just, well,
that,
we just, I
right?
just,
There's
when
a flowing-
when I'm doing a projection, like when we're making the decision, when we present it to the school committee, we incorporate, it's very
An
few. To
anticipation
be
of
honest with
number
you,
of
it's
kids.
been very small over the
Great.
years, very
Super.
small.
Okay.
And we've seen a great participation. Again, another nice thing, getting away from that C word that we
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
want to
yeah,
talk about
yeah.
anymore.
Great. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
you're very welcome.
Okay, anybody else?
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Dr. Fitzpatrick. Thank you for waiting patiently. So everybody get the stuff I forwarded you about Valley Tech? So you begin, if you have.
Certainly. I'm joined by my school committee members serving all 13 towns, but directly to your community of Douglas. Mark, a graduate of the school as well, and a tradesperson.
And you were here a year ago, I think.
I was.
Yeah.
We prepared a document for you for this evening. Okay. Howard, if you help me out there.
Great, thank you.
So we did get a few things from you before.
Yes, we're traditionally asked to provide, let's say, placeholders or
Yep.
preliminary information. Anyone else need anything? All right. All right. Well, of course. Sure. The budget is not yet approved by the school committee, but it's approved by the budget subcommittee, okay? This is my third finance committee meeting, and it's not uncommon to be asked to make presentations at the finance committee level before the budget's fully approved. In any case, we didn't, I noticed you use the verb fluid more than once. This is a fixed. This is not a fluid. We're not going to change the numbers that we're presenting, okay? We'll live within them, right? We certainly hope the state does its part in living with the numbers that it's indicated. So in typical fashion, the graphic arts students have created a, kind of a colorful cover, okay, which they take this on as a challenge, and they use all of the things that I asked them to do in competitions, okay, which is fine, okay, so whether it's video or print material. As we walk through the booklet, the budget subcommittee is a cross-section of school committee members and administrators and the district treasurer, who's a part-time person who works for the school committee. Okay, moving through, the next page is my standard cover letter identifying the principal changes as we enter into the new fiscal year. This is my 31st presentation to you. I thank you for your previous support. And I was somewhat younger when the first time I did it. So, in any case, within the body of the cover letter, I attempted to address a number of the standard questions which we hear among the 126 Finance Committee members where we make presentations, including the salary or collective bargaining agreements. The school committee successfully negotiated a new 3-year contract with the teachers without legal representation, another year of no grievances, and without any delayed situation. So that contract was negotiated, and the numbers of the contract are listed here. Another area that's oftentimes inquired is that people ask me about health benefit increases. We were able, through a collective strategy, we're able to limit the health premium increases for the FY20 budget to 4.5%. And in our case, they're in the budget, all right, because we make a consolidated full request. We also conducted a series of energy conservation measures and others, including working with the electric company and also entering into 2 contracts with solar farms that are not on the campus for discount electricity. Many of the school systems across the state experienced a declining enrollment. We did not. We have 17 additional students, and the town of Douglas saw a 10% increase in enrollment of students to 126. Are there any questions so far?
Anybody? Okay.
All right, moving on to the green sheet. The green sheet is generally considered a revenue sheet, and we're building this on the governor's House 1 numbers because that's all we have at this time. The major source of school aid is Chapter 70, as you recognize. A year ago when I presented, there was a $600,000 to $700,000 increase in Chapter 70. Like many school systems across the Commonwealth, we will not experience that this time. And we received a bare minimum of $30 per student, which is rather unfortunate. Okay, so while there's a lot of success in touting of the Student Opportunity Act, the rural schools are not experiencing that additional revenue. Well, the benefit that Douglas has in its partnership with 12 other communities is the regional transportation, otherwise known as Chapter 71. And that, of course, is fairly significant. We're projecting an 80% reimbursement this time around. Last time, to our surprise, we received greater than 90%. As you look at some of the other revenues, you see them listed. The investment income is up with the help of the treasurer. And a key factor here is that we're, the other funding sources, known as Chapter 71. A year ago, we received additional unanticipated revenue from Chapter 71. And so we stored that temporarily in a stabilization account for transportation only. And we then are drawing it immediately a year later, which we're directed to do, to credit that and reduce it. So it's a nice backfill for the loss of Chapter 70. But it's good news, bad news. The good news is we can use it to reduce assessments, and we've done that. Bad news is that, you know, it's one-time money. There's no guarantee, and we don't expect the reimbursement of transportation at anywhere near the level that it was previously paid. Even that surprised us. The state made a major change in the governor's plan, and that was that there was a decision made at the state level to increase substantially the absolute minimum contributions to the communities, the 351 cities and communities across the state of Massachusetts. And so while state revenue was reduced, the absolute minimums went up. Okay? And so, and of course, you would have seen notifications of that effect. And we can chat about that as we walk through. The total budget increase being advanced is a 3.9%. And that, of course, incorporates all cost centers. All right, there's no other aspect within that. Okay, on the back side of the green sheet is our standard explanation of how we might use excess and deficiency funds that we have. I'm traditionally have been asked by one or more members of this group, what's the Department of Revenue certified excess and deficiency amount? It's 1.1 million. Okay, so it's some 400,000 under the 5% cap that we would operate, all regional school systems operate. Moving on to the next sheet is the actual assessments across the district. And I did provide this information through the town manager's office in an attempt to be helpful. And I've done that with other towns where I've been asked to do that. Okay. Douglas owns almost 10% of the vocational technical school, the 9.9. You can see that. Right. And 126. There are the towns of Uxbridge, Northbridge, and Milford are among those that have more students. But Douglas certainly has this strong stake and an investment in vocational technical education at your regional VOCTEC system. The next sheet is the blue sheet. It's the last payment of the previous debt. Some 19 years ago, you and all the towns unanimously agreed to a $36 million renovation project, and we've asked for no debt since then. That project was approved by the Mass School Building Authority at 75.5% reimbursement. So we were fortunate enough to get in, kind of the last of the Mohegans there, as they say, to get in to secure that higher reimbursement rate. So the last payment, which was all part of a 20-year schedule that was provided to the towns, we did refinance after 10 years to reduce the rate from 4 to 2%, which obviously saved the towns money. Okay. And so that debt payment is listed here. It's usually presented as a separate warrant article on your warrant. Moving on. The next page is, we've tried to indicate to the communities to be mindful of the fact that our budget, unlike many of a local school system situations that can share certain costs with the municipality, and certainly we applaud that approach, but we have to incorporate everything from sewer to unemployment compensation within our budget. We have, in my 31 years, we've never come back and asked for special funding. Even when the state reduced the promised funding by $1.8 million in 2008, we thought it was only appropriate to live with the reduced state amount and, kind of bite the bullet, if you will. But the point is, we want to just alert people that we're covering all the cost centers, and that's why we have the budget within the 3.9. So the next page is kind of the process of our budget. We have some aspect of a budget building process that are a little different because we have 400 program advisory committee members, people like the school committee member to my left right here. These 400 tradespeople gather in clusters according to their trade specificity, and they look at the request of the budget items from each of our 18 vocational technical programs. And they enable us to rate things as nice or needed wants, wishes, and must needs. They also can sometimes identify alternative ways to secure a resource rather than putting it in the budget. So it's an additional filter and an examination, a rating system from practitioners of the trades that look at our budget request and help guide us relative to what should be in the final request and what's in the request before you. Then the budget subcommittee meets in publicly posted sessions, and minutes are kept, conversations are rather lively, okay, and it's a process over a number of months. You're now looking at the final product of the budget subcommittee. Tonight, the school council is reviewing this document as well, okay, another step in the process. And then the public hearing is coming up next month. So, moving on. The next page is what we identified as a return on investment. And what we're trying to do is show you from an accountability measure, not bragging rights, but what outside observers and evaluators at the state level or otherwise are indicating the proven results of Douglas's vocational technical school. And so we're glad to see that we continue to gain support of the public in applying to our school and that pursuing. We recognize that at the state level there's some controversy and some who would prefer to change the admissions process to a lottery, although that's being debated heavily, and there are certainly very different viewpoints on that. So the next page is some of the news events. It's a challenge to run a school system which is not in your town. Okay, you own 10% of it, but it's in the town of Upton. And so since we have an image issue with that, you don't see us every day as you drive through town. But we do our best to have the public be aware of the resources that are available through its vocational technical school. So some of the accomplishments are listed there. The next page is a summary of some of the grants. A year ago, I shared with you that we secured over $3 million in grants. With the supply delays, we're still implementing some of the $3 million grants that were already awarded to us because we weren't able to acquire the materials or sometimes to complete it. So we're doing that. And then in the new cycle, there's basically another $1 million in grants. Okay, but there's some overlap here relative to that. Okay. The next sheet is what I call the Douglas summary sheet. It was prepared specifically for you and for this evening. And so we have a proposed assessment of the number listed there, the $1,848,281, okay, and an increase versus FY24 of $237,806, which, similar to the increase in students, is roughly 10%. Okay. The absolute minimum contribution directed by the Commonwealth was in fact 20,000 higher than that, the 257,586. That's a number that comes from the Commonwealth based on property values and income levels for your community, and it's a process and a formula used across the entire Commonwealth. We were able to mitigate that by the 20,000 because our total budget includes an additional assessment to cover the additional costs that I mentioned earlier, and there was no need to pass on the full absolute minimum increase as well. How many students are served? 126, okay, which is an increase of 11 students, and that's basically a 9.6. The debt, which was showcased on the blue sheet earlier, is a fixed amount of $34,211, and that completely addresses the previous debt. The question that's been raised is, what's the per-student cost? The per-student assessment cost is $14,940 for each of the 126 students. Okay, yes.
So I'm looking at last year. It looked like last year we were $1,645,187. And now the proposal is for $1,848,281,
Yeah, last year's number.
which is $50,000 higher than the fluid number we have from our town administrator as a preliminary. Is that right, Dr. Fitzpatrick, or not?
Well, I'm looking at the total assessment to Douglas, I think inclusive of,
Here's what I'm looking at. So this is a little sheet we got for tonight, and it says last year was 1,645,187, which is what our town meeting approved. Does that look right to you, more or less? That's pretty close.
right,
And then you're going for 1,848,281 for next year, right?
that's correct.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to determine whether the debt's in there or not in there.
Okay.
That was my pause there, okay? So we're comfortable with that response?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, all right, Richard. Okay. Some factors that the dropout rate in the system has been zero, as monitored by the state. The completion rate of students coming in and finishing is 100%. Across the country, chronic absenteeism is a serious concern for schools. We looked at our daily student attendance rate. It's 97.2. However, we just recently discovered that we are able to count students who are taught at home in some of our homeschool because of physical issues, so this number would actually be higher, okay? We're glad to see that the teachers are showing up regularly too, okay? So the 94. We have a longer school year, 193 teaching days, in order to address both the vocational competencies and the academic rigor of our operation. I'm pleased to announce at this point in the school year, we have 150 co-op students placed in industry, okay, every other week. So they're reporting to industry, and the trades they're pursuing have indicated interest in pursuing every other week, earning at least minimum wage, getting a head start. Yes.
And that starts junior year or senior year?
That's senior year. Okay. There may be a few juniors, but it's primarily senior year. This would be about 50% of the class. We sometimes point out some of the special projects that we've been asked to do, and one of the special projects that was just recently agreed, that will start very soon, is the regional animal shelter. Douglas has a partnership with 5 other communities for an animal shelter. The shelter itself is based in the town of Blackstone, but serves Douglas and Hopedale and 6 communities. Our drafting department helped to design that with Mr. Sullivan, the officer, and they're eager to begin that. Okay, just as. This year, we did have a couple special requests, which kind of breaks the traditional pattern. Okay, and those 2 requests are as follows. It was suggested by the treasurer, although we have a single stabilization account that's categorized as regional transportation, that we would increase his flexibility by asking the towns to create a second stabilization account. And that has to be approved by the towns. And rather critically, any money spent from it, if approved, has to be approved by the towns. All right, so it's a request in order to have an additional account to possibly to raise money and to put money in that account to address things for capital projects, okay, but not have it. There's no money being requested of assessments to create that account. So it's just a recommendation of the treasurer.
Yeah.
In addition, we noticed that the Mass School Building Authority reopened its accelerated repair program for roof projects and other repair act. And so we pounced on that. we have prepared what's known as an SOI, a statement of interest, that will be submitted tomorrow, okay, before the deadline, and asking the Mass School Building Authority to reimburse us under that program. Now, while the last debt was reimbursed at 75%, the accelerated repair projects are usually at 50%. So we have done 3 different projects with the accelerated repair, but previously we didn't have to ask the towns to borrow money because there were small roof projects and we had excess and deficiency money that could cover it. So we used it for that purpose, and then we had applied with the state, and then we replenished the money that we appropriated. So if you put up $1 million to fix a section of the roof, we got $500,000 back. The actual reimbursement rate was 53%. But the last section of the roof, which is 60,000 square feet, is too great to do that. We don't have that kind of money to do that. So we're asking permission for the right to borrow up to $10 million. We hope we borrow less than that. And then if we are successful in securing the authorization of the state, we will immediately pay down, as we have before, we've done this several times, okay, the debt that remains. So it's a new request. The debt does not start. A year ago, I mentioned the possibility of this when my budget presentations across the district. And then, as it turned out, the Mass School Building Authority did, in fact, reopen the window for this accelerated repair program. So we're eager to get in line, or attempt to get in line. And the debt would not start until FY26. So it does not impact FY25. We wanted to give the towns just as much notice as we could to do this. The biggest benefit of that is that Douglas has 12 other partners, okay, as do each of the towns for the roof project. So we think it's prudent to do this to protect, the investment, and it's a combination of roof and HVAC units, okay, that are vital to the sensitivity of the equipment that's underneath the roof, okay? So we have not asked you to borrow money for 20 years. So we hope that shows how rarely we do this and how selective we are when we do it, okay? So those are special warrant articles that obviously the Finance Committees will be asked to chime in on, take positions, and to look at that. The next page is just a quick Q&A on certain aspects of the project here, so that I'll work through these if I may, okay? All right, so the first thing is, what do we hope to fix? Well, it's 60,000 square feet, and it's that section of the building is 34 years old, okay? And so that's what we're targeting. We do have leakage now, and we're trying to address it before it gets any worse, all right? So people have asked, because they recognize we were the first renovation green school project in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, is the roof repair area in the photovoltaics, the large solar. It is not, because those are 19 years old. Well, they're not 34 years old. There's no need to address that section of the roof. Okay. What type? Some people are interested in knowing what kind of material will be used for the roof repair. A number of years ago, you might tar your roof, okay? You might do something that had no reflective benefit. But today you wouldn't do that, because you can better protect the entire climate underneath the roof with newer materials and different things. So this is all part of it. Somebody asked whether or not we'll be replacing the older HVAC units. That doesn't make a lot of sense, in the sense of they're inefficient and older. You wouldn't do that. You would advance this with this opportunity, especially if you get 50% back, okay, relative to, in fact, the person who asked that question was worried that we might be replacing the Finance Committee chair from one of the other towns. And I assured him, no, we wouldn't be doing that. That's not the plan. Okay. What is Douglas' obligation? As I said, this is targeted for you. The 3-year average of enrollment drives the ownership okay, relative to a given community's ownership relative to the bond, and that translates to 9.6% for Douglas. Looking again at the other Q&A question, was that? Okay. All right. Did we do infrared studies of the roof? Yes, we did 2 of them, okay, and to be able to confirm. Also, it provides us to provide that evidence to the state as we apply under that Mass School Building Authority Accelerated Repair Program. Was the roof project part of a master plan? Yes, we're in the 10th year of the master plan that was previously put together, and this is consistent with what was expected, so it, the estimated cost is $10 million. Basically, it comes out to about $4.4 million for roof, and the remainder to be the HVAC units, which are considerable relative to the our total roof. The building itself is 300,000 square feet, so that's what's under the roof. Okay. What is the duration of the borrowing? There are a lot of variables relative to how long you borrow and the rate which you borrow and things of that nature. It's been suggested that in order to be able to answer questions, we look at a 20-year borrowing. Frankly, we think it'll be less than that, okay? But it's best to be prepared for that, okay? If you were using a fixed principal process for our contributions, that the estimated cost to Douglas would be $68,160. That's an estimate based on bonds which have yet to be issued, but it's intended to give people some kind of a grasp of what we're looking at here.
Right.
All right. The next sheet, I know there's been some questions. Howard and others have asked questions about the college direction of the students and others. And so I thought I'd share some things to give you an indication of today's pathways of students. This Hopedale Foundation communication is a sample. This is a nonprofit organization that has significant resources from the Draper Corporation, the largest textile plant in Eastern Seaboard for many years. And what they do is they, as exhibited here, they offer scholarships. Now, they're limited to the students of their community, but that's not a problem. We have regularly said to a community, for example, Uxbridge, if the Polish club, the Progressive Club in Uxbridge wanted to offer scholarships to Uxbridge students of Polish, connections, then that's fine. We'll honor whatever the criteria are. Just we wanted our students to be eligible, and so it's not uncommon. Or in Milford, the Italian clubs offer different scholarships for the not just the Italians, but the Milford students. But so this is we actually gave out 18. It's a huge number of scholarships in total that are given out. But what I'm trying to showcase here is that these organizations are encouraging students, okay, to pursue college and then enter the trade. So it's a 2-step process, and if they will do that and they'll stay committed to pursuing the trade after they complete further higher education, kind of an educated workforce approach, okay, that they're willing to offer incentives. That's one example. The next one is just hit the paper the past couple of days. Okay, we happen to have a state wrestling champion, a young man of 285 pounds. Okay, but when he was interviewed on earning the state wrestling championship, he indicated that his goal is to go to college, pursue wrestling, okay, and then complete his plumbing. He's in the plumbing program along with 60-something other students. And so this is exactly what we hope to see. We didn't prep this student. This is another indication of staying true to the trade, okay, but looking to pursue college along the way. And so I'm not sure how a 285-pound plumbing person works through some of the small, small sections that the plumbers have to work, but that's his plan. So. And then I could have given you all kinds of examples. There's one more on the back. This is an HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning student, okay, who has indicated that how he plans to advance his career in the trade. And so there's countless examples of this new pathway that the students are utilizing and taking advantage. That summarizes my program, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, questions, anybody for Dr. Fitzpatrick?
No one else has any? I've got a couple. Just so I understand the roof project, so borrowing 10 million, so if you were successful in the accelerated grant program, the cost of the 10, and we're reimbursed at 50%, the cost of the 10, the cost of all of the 13 towns would be approximately 5 million, correct?
I'm predicting, all I'm sharing, the Mass School Building Authority, I asked, they would not identify a percentage. So I'm using the 53% that we witnessed over the past self-funded projects as a guide. So that would be my target. I can't promise you 5 million on the 10, but...
So maybe asked another way, if you're not accepted, the cost of the town would be 10 million. I'm just making sure I understand that the 10 million does not include any reimbursement you might get.
No, the 10 million is what the Mass School Building Authority would expect us to be able to, let me back up. When we self-funded, we showed up and said, we get like passbook, we have the money right here. Would you authorize reimbursement? Well, there was no delay, there's no need to act upon 13 towns and things like that because it was cash ready. And so they put us ahead of the line. Now we're in the traditional thing, so that we're saying that we've asked the towns, hopefully that the towns are supportive, and then the state will say, did you get the support from the towns? Otherwise, we're dead right there. Okay, but if you get the support from the towns, then it's under consideration by the Mass School Building for the reimbursement. You also don't borrow all your 10 million upfront because you're not paying it upfront. So you're borrowing sections or segments rather. Okay, but I'm trying to suggest to people to plan.
Yeah.
Okay. But upon the other thing is under the accelerated repair, it's been accelerated payments too. So when you get a payment, say for example, 3 million is borrowed on the front end.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So then you're submitting for reimbursement with the state, okay, and hopefully you're getting, you're getting whatever percentage they're granting you, okay, and if it's 50%, immediately you're able to pay down, okay. Is that helpful?
I think so. So the approximately 68,000 per year figure you quoted is based on the $10 million number?
That for 20 years, equalized payments. That's correct.
Assuming, for the point of discussion, assuming no grant from the accelerated program.
No what?
No, you wouldn't get any. You would say the 68,000 figure you quote would be as if you don't get any of the money.
That's correct. That's correct. Because the state is expecting us to confirm that you're banking it, if you're, okay?
Yeah,
But
I'm
yes.
just trying to make sure.
No, and I'm doing my best.
I have you here.
Yeah.
I guess anyone else have a question on the roofing project before I go to this?
Hang on a minute.
Stabilization?
Yeah, Jean?
Would you be looking to have this debt excluded?
What do you want, sorry, Jimmy?
The excluded debt? Are you looking to have this on the ballot and have it as debt excluded?
I'm looking to be on the ballot. The exclusion is totally up to the towns.
But you are looking to put it at town meeting and to put it...
Oh, yes, we need this to be on the town warrant. Okay, that's why we sent it. That's a step in the process, okay? But no borrowing to happen until a year later. So if, with action in the town meetings of FY25, it positions us to go to the state saying, yes, we got a commitment from our communities. Now we're looking for a commitment from the Mass School Building Authority. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, I just have to look at the timing that the two have to take their vote, the ballot and the town meeting.
Yeah, okay, yeah. It's the first time in 31 years, I think, that I've asked for a special warrant article. Okay? Okay.
It doesn't reference exempt from Proposition 2.5 in the article.
No, the decision to exempt it is a local decision.
So I don't know that we would use...
In the, let me just point out, in the $36 million project, 19 years ago, 9 towns decided to exempt, but not all towns. That was a local decision. The language put forth was done by bond counsel, and everything is targeted to maximize the likelihood of approval by the Mass School Building Authority, okay? And we're in good stead with them, to say the least, because we have a proven track record. This hasn't been challenged, but let me point out that the only thing this money would be used for is the roof and the HVAC units on the roof.
Right.
It won't be used, it cannot be used for something else. If we had asked for, there's lots of things you'd like to do, okay? And that if we did that, it would have reduced the likelihood the MSBA would have approved it, because it's no longer focused, and it's not eligible under their program. Okay.
Does that answer your question, Jean?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Ryan, you still on the roof or not?
Lynn has a
Okay.
roof question.
No, I have another topic question, if we're done with the roof. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we're not done.
No,
Okay.
sorry.
Still roof? All right, so the current the current current debt is $34,000 a year and change, and that's coming off.
That's done. That's done. It's fully met. That's correct.
Is it in our costs for FY '24? Yes.
Yes, you,
It won't be in our costs to you. It looks like it's in our costs for FY '25, right?
this is the last payment is 25.
All right, FY '25.
That's right.
So you've got a proposal that immediately looks for debt to hit budgets in the towns for FY '26, correct?
26.
No gap when the 20-year one is done. You're hitting with, and frankly, to Ryan's question, although the math wouldn't be exact, to the extent it's a $10 million borrowing at 4% over 20 years, and it's 68,000 at the moment to our town per year. To the extent you got half of that reimbursed, 50%, your number would conveniently match the 34,000 of debt per year that we're currently paying. Is that a coincidence?
Well, in summary, yes, it is a coincidence. I'm saying we're not that skilled, to be honest with you. But I'm saying that it was designed to not have multiple debts hit the same time. Okay, that was done in the sense, well, that was done, that's like a political achievability factor there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we were waiting, the state accelerated repair program was closed. Okay, so we waited to see if it would reopen. So that was part of the process too. When we geared up in case it would open, and then the window opened, okay, we followed this pretty closely, okay? It's not like a stock market issue here, but, all right, to see if it would, and when it did open, it was the perfect time to pursue that. Just like the previous debt, to make the 75.5% reimbursable was more than timely, okay, to get, okay, sorry.
A couple of quick questions. The 20 years on the new proposed debt, do you understand that to be a 20-year fully amortizing debt?
What I'm saying is that it's been recommended by the treasurer, who oversees the relationships with the banks and the borrowing, that it be equal principal payments, okay?
Equal.
As I understand, his recommendation is it's a greater savings of interest than doing it the other way.
So the 68 is only year one and will decline hypothetically year over year?
No, he's saying it's
Because you're reducing
he's saying it's a fixed, payment, okay, subject to reduction by the reimbursement.
Okay. And then, do you have a perception that you've got a 4% borrowing ability currently in a market that on the private sector is much higher than that?
I don't have a known number for the borrowing, okay?
The 4 is just a projected number?
We're looking at a 4 and a 5% as far as a planning purpose. Obviously, go ahead.
Where does your money come from? Is there a statewide opportunity to borrow through the state at a lower than market rate?
No, I think it's bond premiums that are sold.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Generally, it's not at the same rate that, you'd mortgage a house. Obviously, we're watching those, rates, 6 and 7%.
Commercial rate is higher than that.
Yes, yeah, but it's not at that level. Okay?
Okay.
Is that helpful?
What's the time frame projected for when the reimbursement event would occur?
We're waiting to see how fast the state acts on that.
What are we, a couple of years tops, theoretically? It's not going to be 6 years into the 20.
No, I don't. They moved pretty quickly in the previous situations, okay? But you said 2 years? That sounds reasonable to me, if I were, okay, as far as the previous experiences with the state.
I'm a little concerned, as this seems to be something that will land squarely in our lap for a recommendation in the next couple of months before town meeting. Could we get a little clarification on what you said was level principal reductions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which to me would reduce the yearly payment or monthly payment
Right.
once substantial amounts of
Yeah.
principal level paid.
Right.
It sounds more like an amortizing event, and I'm looking for.
I'll be glad to provide it, as I have in the past. I'd like to point out that it was just last Thursday, okay, that the school committee voted this,
Okay.
okay? But even though it was predicted a year ago, and my prediction a year ago was that I would be recommending it to the school committee, and people should anticipate that. But the school committee just acted upon it. So it's in the fast track in order to get in line with the state. But yes, by all means. We previously provided you with a 20-year schedule, then we refinanced it after 10 to improve it. We'll provide you with the same
On
thing.
the last one.
The last one.
Yeah.
We'll do the same thing.
But when you refied, it still had the same total of the 20-year term.
Yeah,
Right.
the term was the same,
Same
but the
20
payments
total.
were substantially less.
Right.
And we rebated money to the towns.
Okay. I'm good on the roof issue. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else on the roof?
Jean's got her hand up.
Yeah, Jean, yes.
So the only thing I want to add to that is the 34,000 is currently debt excluded. That's why I asked the question. If it's voted the way it is and it doesn't have that ballot question, it would become part of our operating budget. So it comes within the budget. It's not on top of the budget.
But to a taxpayer, it makes little difference.
It does make, well, it makes a difference to the operating budget because you would have, if
Right,
it wasn't
but-
excluded,
But the taxpayer is paying for it either way.
they are paying for it, but they would be, the money would not be available to the other departments if it wasn't excluded
Understood,
yet.
understood.
And currently, the 34,000 is.
Okay.
You would have to compare the debt service payment to the annual levy increase of
Understood,
the 2.5,
understood. Right.
right?
But when you're
But that's
comparing-
its own,
$60,000
that's its
doesn't sound like a
own
lot.
sale pitch.
Right.
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 Okay, thank you.
Non-roof question.
Non-roof question, health insurance question.
Yes, that's right. All right.
Remind me who your carrier is.
Harvard Pilgrim, which, and a tough combination, okay? I think so.
And
It's a 75-25% contributory rates negotiated at the table by the school committee and the teachers association. That's been in place for a number of years. It was 90-10 when I started 31 years ago. And
These are contributing 25%.
yes, they do, okay?
And what's the deductible? Do you remember what the deductible is on the plan?
Well, there are roughly 50 people in the HSAs now, okay? All right, so that there are a number of cost reduction efforts which have allowed us to ask for 4.5% for next year. We're being told as we make presentations across the district that the health costs are 3 times that in some of the other communities, so, which we don't wish to add upon them, but, so. Okay.
You just have one plan offering, the HSA?
No, we have two plans, okay.
One is a traditional and the other is an HSA.
Yeah, I can give you all the specifics on that if you'd like it in greater detail.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing the
Okay,
plan information.
all right. We actually have a benefit book. We run benefit fairs, wellness fairs. When we do data analysis to see what the not just catastrophic cases, but what's driving the bill up. And so years ago, one of the examples I used when you asked this previously was that there was an inordinate number of emergency room visits, and that was raising the rates. And we alerted and trained people to become more aware that that was not a cost-effective way to receive services, and we identified alternatives for that. And so with a more educated workforce relative to how to gain health benefits, not endanger their families, we've been able to reduce costs. Okay.
I mean, the increase is not huge, so that's good.
Yeah, well, it's not as good as the last year, I can tell you that, because I think you were impressed. I think it was a 2% increase last year. Okay.
But no, I'd be curious to look at the plan design.
Yeah. Okay, but I'll get you that. Okay.
Thank you.
What we're looking for, Mr. Chairman, is PEPM, so per employee per month.
What's that?
Your premium per month. Per, so family, individual,
Yeah.
will have a per member per month charge.
Yeah, we have a whole.
This one, as long as the booklet has that.
Yeah, we have a whole booklet on this. Okay. So printed by the school.
Ryan, did you have another question?
I do. I don't quite understand the stabilization warrant. So you already have a stabilization fund, is that correct?
We have one. It's for transportation only. Okay? So, right, it can't be used for anything other than transportation. And we're using it this year to reduce the budget. Okay? And so the treasurer has suggested a second, okay, we don't have free cash, okay, getting a second stabilization fund that, for capital projects. And we need permission from the towns to do that, okay? But the rules in the state of Massachusetts for a stabilization fund of that nature, because it's not limited to transportation, it's capital, it would not be used for salaries. It would be, the school committee would have to vote things, but we can't, the district would not be able to draw money from it unless the towns approved it.
But that's not the case of the current stabilization fund, correct?
No, the current stabilization is transportation, so it's not.
So when you say transportation, busing costs?
Yes, the reimbursement of busing,
Okay.
because we project 80% reimbursement on busing costs. We're in the third year of a 5-year contract, okay? Because of the regional, it's unique to regions.
Okay.
Not just vocational, though. All the regional schools in Massachusetts enjoy that additional, what they call Chapter 71 state reimbursement. The governor has not tinkered with that so far. We hope that's still the case. Okay, in other words, if you attempt to balance the state budget by raiding that account, that disrupts some of our plans. But, did I answer that?
You did.
Yeah.
And how are you planning on funding the new stabilization account?
No, that would be, one thing you could do is you start to borrow money, you could place it there temporarily, then you disperse it from there, okay, for this project, the bond. And some of the students and some of the families are want to raise money to do other things. This creates a place to park the money for that, okay, if they choose to do it.
Go ahead.
But it could also be funded by an annual budget request to have money within it to park into the stabilization fund the following year.
You could put it in the budget, but we wanted to limit the budget to the 3.9%, which is before you.
Right.
Is it your intention in future years to put it in the budget?
No, no, no.
Okay. We'll hold you to that next year. Okay, thank you.
I have to say, at my age, I don't get a lot of questions about future years, but okay.
Well, yeah, I guess.
But they're good questions.
I appreciate it. So,
Anybody else?
I was.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was made aware that you had interest in a 5-year follow-up study. In other words, the placement of our students.
Oh, I always do, yes.
So I think this is 2017. The class of 2017, 169 of the 273 graduates responded to our survey relative to where are you now? And so we had to take out, we blocked or redacted the names because we didn't get permission to use the names of the students. But you'll have, this report is a 5-year, which is much more valuable than a 1-year report because you can see that's the way things are playing out. But it shows where the graduate is from. Did they further education? Almost everyone did. okay, which is the more commonplace. Where did they go to school? That's listed here, 4-year, 2-year, whatever, by the way. And then, are you working now? And 97% said yes, okay. Was there some connection between what you pursued at Valley Tech and your work? The vast majority is they answered yes to related. And then they were also asked, did your education at Valley Tech, the investment that Douglas and the other towns make, did it make a difference? Did it help you? And here are the responses are very complimentary. Here's a full report.
Thank you. Is that the most recent placement?
Well, that's the 5-year, 2017. This is
But it's from 2017. A 5-year tends to be, here's where our kids in 19 went, here's where kids in 20 went, here's where kids in 21 went, here's where 22
No, well, we didn't look at it that way.
Yeah.
We wanted to see,
This is 5 years out.
5 years, we
I
wanted to
appreciate
see
that.
what happened after you completed your further education. Where did you go? Okay, you didn't stay in college, what did you do?
If you don't mind, we'll take it, we'll circulate it.
Yeah, it's for you. It was done for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
I think Jeannie indicated that you went interested.
Does it specify in what field the grad?
They answer the different, how they're connected. So.
Okay,
I'm done, thank you.
anybody else?
Oh, sure.
Howard's
I haven't started.
Okay.
All right, so bear with me. So just a couple of things. So I think one of the things, so you and I have talked in the years I've been on the board, and you've come in front of you and I having discussions. It seems to me in the last couple of years that you've given me a perception that the application and then the acceptance process has evolved a little bit or changed a little bit. Can you speak just briefly to today?
Sure.
What the criterion are for how BVT reviews applications and then makes its selections of how it accepts kids?
I'll do my best.
Please.
Okay, and you're right. I can recall we've had some conversations over this.
Yep.
Neither the school committee nor the superintendent are involved in that process.
Okay.
Okay. The website lists exactly the criteria.
Okay.
Okay, so that's publicly produced. The state of Massachusetts took issue with the regional vocational technical schools in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, basically 26 of them, okay, that they felt were not targeting their recruitments were failing to recognize the target populations of the district. Okay. Now I mean, obviously Massachusetts Regional Voc Tech with Fitchburg and Gardner and Leominster versus its other communities is in an unusual situation. In our case, Milford is different than the other 12 towns. Okay, and Milford acknowledges that too. Okay, so we wanted to mirror the population that we serve, okay? And we didn't want to become too elite, okay? And one of the things we noticed is that students with the top grades were more inclined to get in. So we changed that so that it wasn't students with, so A, Bs, and Cs almost rank the same now. So they made changes in the weighted factors of the 5 criteria to get in. There's still an interview to get in. The interview is, they still look at attendance, okay? But anyone medically excused or provides medical documentation is excused for absences. The state has changed the rules because of the civil rights considerations. You cannot punish or penalize a student who's been involved in discipline issues, okay? And so that's pretty much forgiven. You almost have to murder somebody, okay? So the biggest thing for us, I'm told, is that the interview is where the student, and obviously students from Douglas are convincing the interview team with their commitment to pursue the trades. Mm-hmm. And so if a student, all due respect to the legal profession or a musical profession, mm-hmm. if you want to be an attorney, then you're probably not scoring too well on that interview. Mm-hmm. Okay, they're really looking for an interest and a commitment to benefit from the vocational technical equipment. So it's a 100-point system, and mm-hmm. that's how people score it. We don't have a quota. Mm-hmm. Each student competes against all the other candidates who apply under the current process. Okay, is that helpful?
A little bit. Is
okay.
That, from your understanding of it, is that something that's evolved just in the last 4 or 5 years?
Yes.
The state has mandated that kind of subtle change?
Yeah, well, what the state said is they demanded we look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, they didn't demand a solution, because then they would have been responsible for the solution, and if it
Right,
didn't work.
right,
Okay,
right.
and so, yes, it's the last 3, 4, 5 years, okay, and we recognize the need to do that, okay? We're looking at our, let's call it subgroups. There's 180 students with special needs, okay? Now, that's a fairly substantial number, so we're proud of that. We're glad to see that that's an example, okay? But is that helpful?
It is. I noticed, right, in the first years, part of your return on investment page, and you and I talked about it quite a bit, it struck me at the time, it frustrated me candidly, was that you were reporting that your, MCAS scores were higher than any of the other towns in the district, and I found that was maybe because you were getting a lot of BA students, or not. But today I see your numbers, we're proud to share 80% of students in English, language arts were in the exceeding or meeting expectations category. In math, it was 62%. In science, biology, and physics, it was 70. Are you finding those numbers now coming down a little bit?
A little
Because
bit.
of the crossover of the kids you're taking in?
In fairness, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's-
However, okay, but I'm not apologizing for
We're
the
good.
fact.
No.
Okay, I think we're good.
But you're also hitting more, are you finding you're hitting more kids that want to go into the trades?
Yes.
Are you
Yes.
finding that segue occurring? Your 2017 report, 5 years from now, will have an even higher number of kids that say, hey, we went right into the trades.
All true, and the 2017 cycle includes COVID experiences, too, by the way.
Sure.
They had to struggle through that. But again, yes, yes, and yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask for one clarification? So I just want to make sure I heard you clearly. You said the students who got A's really received no more consideration than the students who got C's?
That's correct. Okay, they have clustered the grade factors, okay, so there's no major change in the scoring.
Just from a limited sample size, right? My kids are high school seniors, so I know a bunch of the kids that got in, a bunch of kids that didn't. And I would say the kids who didn't were a lot more of the C students than the A students. That's just a reference from the high school students at Douglas over the last 4 years.
I think that's what's evolving if your kids were in 7th and 8th grade. I'm not sure of that.
Just as I hear
evolved?
over the last 3 or 4 years. Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm consistently told that the interview is, kind of like going to kind of determine it's very competitive, to say the least, okay? So, we also don't have any school choice. We only take students from the district. We've always done that, okay?
This is a useful chart. The thing that we really need, it might be on the first page, I missed it, is a key for the shops. I mean, I know a lot of them because my kids went to DCC.
Right, yes, I know you.
But I don't know all of them.
Right, okay.
So to figure out, what something that's not HVAC or plumbing is.
Okay, yeah, there's 18 vocational technical
Yeah,
programs, okay?
so if you could provide some kind of key that matches up with, what DA is.
Okay, all right. The people that collected the survey, not to be cute about that, but they know the student knew the program they took. So, but okay, but I got you. Yeah, of
Well,
course.
I've got some DAs.
No problem. We're glad to provide that. We can, so,
I thought it was district attorney, so.
When I look and they work in Simply Orthodontic
No,
and
we're
it's
good.
DA, I'm thinking it's probably not district attorney.
I have a question. We're having more problems in the school now that you're not allowed to take into consideration someone's behavior?
yes. It's far more challenging. And so it requires different strategies by educators, all of those in the room. So one of the things that we did during the summer is we looked at kind of the misdemeanors. What you have oftentimes is not a lot of different kids misbehaving, but some kids doing the constant misbehaving. And so we looked at the repeat offenders of small crimes, if you will, or small judgment questions. And we created a kind of a conflict avoidance, training area, okay? Hired additional counselors to help work with these students. And we have multiple support systems in the school to get the kid back into proper behavior. But it's very demanding. Some of the cases that, if they escalate to, disciplinary appeals and, we don't really expel many people, but suspensions, things like that, and the parents can eventually appeal, to the superintendent. And that's, the school committee's not today, but, so you hear the cases and you look at what the staff has gone through, and all I can say is you feel very badly of the drain, if you will, and the constant. And so usually there's multiple factors for that. There's home might not be the best. Some environments are abusive, kind of thing. But yeah, it's a very troubled youth. Okay, it's a very challenging but not just for Douglas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Anybody else? Mark, you want to say something?
No, Doc filled it all in, I'm sure.
You sure?
He does, yeah.
Okay.
He's a regular participant at the school committee meetings. He's not, he's just polite.
Numbers are my strong suit.
Well, if there are no questions, thank you for coming.
Okay, so what I heard, Richard, is that, okay, we want the health plan booklet, we want the key, and we want the schedule, the 20-year schedule.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes,
Right.
the concept.
The tax exempt from,
That becomes us.
That's up to
more
you.
question
That's up
for
to you.
us. Yeah, yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. We'll get
Gentlemen.
And just a heads up, I would anticipate that question heading toward town meeting, that I would want to carve into it our max rate on the interest rate. So any information you can give us ahead of time on what you perceive to be the ballpark interest rate you think it can be borrowed at
Yeah.
is useful.
Yeah.
If you leave us with a 4% and we give you an approval of a 5%, no greater than 5%, and you go on the market and get 5.3, you won't have the town's vote.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to fashion, I suspect, a special town meeting warrant here that'll have a cap on the
Yeah,
interest rate.
I-
Because the math will change, right? If you're borrowing right now at one of the highest borrowing rate times in the last 10 to 15 years,
Right.
which will likely come down in the next 2 or 3 years,
We're expecting that to.
right? But you're going to borrow and lock in at a higher rate. You may
Right.
be able to refinance later. But we've got to anticipate 10 to 15,000 of that 68,000. It's just, well, at 4% it's not. It's relatively low. But you get 6 or 7%, that 68 will balloon quickly to
Yeah.
80 to 85.
Yeah, if we're successful in having the communities vote to support this, and that something else changes, my recommendation to the school committee is they find a way to backfill the difference, okay? Whether it's be for E&D or some other process,
Sure.
okay?
Interesting.
And so it's not a no deal,
Okay,
okay?
fair enough.
But we want to go into the Mass School Building Authority saying, our communities have stepped forward, okay? And, it's a tough time, if you will, but they're willing to do this, and please grant the reimbursement.
Okay.
I'll go to Boston to testify if needed.
Okay. Thank you both.
That's all.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Did everybody get this 4-page overview of the budget that has just the summaries? The one that I referred to?
The fluid one?
The fluid one? Okay.
Will I see her at school? She will-
So before we go to Matt, I got an email from Dr. Fitzpatrick's secretary about a week or two ago, but they're inviting the chairs of the town finance committees to come to Valley Tech and get a tour and have lunch and such. And I said, I'll check with my committee members, but anybody have an objection of me doing that?
Certainly not.
It'd be this Thursday,
Yeah.
You should go.
35 years ago. Would that be okay with everybody if I did that?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, Mr. Wojcik, welcome to the table. You guys recall Matt shared with, yeah, a preliminary budget detail, a preliminary budget major assumptions, preliminary budget submitted, and a preliminary revenue detail. Matt, thank you for all of those, by the way. That was exciting reading, so.
Right? That's the second time I said that.
Whatever floats your boat, Mr. Chairman.
So I think our sense, Matt, is kind of generally where we stand in the budget process, and then anything more specific you think we need to be aware of as we move forward.
Well, so I was downstairs in an interview. I don't know what was covered before I got up here. And if anybody did any updates or any requests or...
Well, the highlight of the Douglas Public Schools was their pump, that the deficit's only $283,000 right now, and they think they can get that. And then for Valley Tech,
No, I heard all that. No, it was before the superintendent.
And there's just no $5,000.
Yeah.
Tree says.
Yes.
And what did she pass out? Did she pass anything out?
Passed out this.
Just a summary.
Just a little summary of how much more activity they have.
Showing us how much busier they were to try to explain the staff increase.
All right, so I won't hand that out to you again, so that, we killed a couple of trees over that. But I will give you this handout, they're on their way out, so it's fresh in my mind. One good reason to form a stabilization account is to sell the bond, take the proceeds, put it in the stabilization account, and then invest it under prudent man, so even if they got 6% on treasuries, right, they would have all those proceeds there, and to knock it down even further. And whose money is it? It's theirs after they issue the bond, right? So that's my hunch. I don't think 4 or 5% is crazy if you're looking to borrow 12 to 18 months from now. No, but I mean, I don't think it's unrealistic. Because we're looking to possibly go out to bond too. So this is a really important conversation. 4% money is really different than 8% money. And we're looking for what the Fed's reaction to inflation figures is going to be. And it's spotty, right? We're not exactly sure what inflation is because the economy is still growing very rapidly. So even though inflation has slowed down,
The Fed increased
Growth-
the rate 16 times to slow the economy.
growth is still present, which is demand for products will still be there, and they may be bidding up prices in the future. So we may be in a lull for inflation and see future interest rate action, open market activity by the Federal Reserve. So it's a little bit dicey, but if we had to go out today and you were highly rated, so you were, maybe not AAA, but real close to AAA, you could see high 4s, mid 5s, depending on the structure.
Are they highly rated, as highly rated?
I don't know. I don't even know if they can get a rating, because I don't think they're big enough, and they don't actually generate the revenue. So I'm not sure how they're, and I think that's one reason why they're playing with this. Clearly, it's a sinking fund, right? Clearly, that's the way it's structured, in order to do that, so.
Yeah, the two questions have to both be on it.
Yeah.
I already know.
Yeah, so, the way we're doing the budget this year is different in that the preliminary budget has been distributed and all those milestone documents are there, and that is the basis of a conversation. I don't want to go into that document and make significant changes to financial assumptions until we've had the opportunity to at least discuss them here at Finance Committee and have you vote them. And it can be a little bit complicated, so rather than looking for a vote the first night, I would distribute what I have pending in front of me, and Patrice's request is only one of them, for potential changes, and then at your next meeting, we'll go into the detail. Now, there are some cases where if I have negotiated a contract either with an employee or a union, and we are at tentative agreement, I will put that in the budget. It's in his document summarized, but just part of good faith bargaining is I will take the terms and put it in. It's up to town meeting to approve or disapprove. But I'm going to pass around two handouts that are very important for where we are in the budget. I know it's late, so I'm not going to speak too much, but one is a summary of the largest items that have come to my attention to this point, and the second handout is backup that supports one of them. I'll get to it in turn. So I just went through the process. If you want to turn to page 2, I'll run through these very quickly.
Of this one, Matt?
Yes, it's a grid.
Okay.
The only handout with more than one page, you want to be on the second page.
The grid. Oh, look at this.
So we see the number from BVT tonight. It represents an increase over my preliminary budget of $85,370. I already projected them to be looking for a 9.6% increase. There was some early information that had been shared by the superintendent that we had higher enrollment, and he gave us a rough idea. It's actually higher than he said. And so what he's looking for is a 14.9% increase year over year, which is very significant. I was puzzling back here because the school business manager pointed out
It's 15%.
a little bit of an abnormality in, so I take out the debt.
Right.
The debt is excluded, so it's, you want to be picky, Mr. Chairman, if the vice chair would like to be picky. It's 14.97578, something like that. I optimized to the actual value after the debt's taken out.
Is that hidden?
No, he breaks it out. He breaks it out. So, because Douglas excluded this, it is not part of the operating budget, that $34,000 debt service. So you send it to the taxpayer every year as an appropriation, but it's excluded debt. So when we present the budget article, the warrant article for BVT, we break that out because that is, the taxpayer pays it, but it is not part of the administration's operating budget. So if he goes out, let's say he's stuck at 64,000, whatever his debt service is every year, and our levy goes up by about 300,000 a year, he'd be sucking up 20% of the levy growth year over year, just by not excluding that debt. So it is an important discussion. It's not going to shake the foundations of Atlantis, but it is an important conversation. So long story short, this is a very large increase. It is driven by the census, not by his overall cost of operation. He's at 3.9. If you went back, took his total budget, deducted the debt portion for the entire operation, and then just used our factor, our .0999 factor, he would actually be asking for more. That's how high our census has gotten at BVT. So it would be 1858 and change, not 1848 and change. So $10,000 difference. So it's not really us subsidizing Milford. I think if I were a local elected official from the town of Uxbridge and I saw these numbers, I would be perhaps less than pleased. How's that? The second item here is Norfolk Aggie. I'm going to reduce my preliminary budget by a 6-digit number. Now, that was about the only good news I got in the last 2 weeks. The reason is because when I budget for Norfolk Aggie, I always budget a worst-case scenario, that the kids who apply get in and matriculate. So last year, we had 4 applications. So when I did the budget, I said, we're going to have 4 freshmen. We're just going to budget for 4 freshmen. 0. Right? So what that means is now that class for fiscal '25 will be sophomores, and there will be a 0.
Right.
So they say they have 5 applications. I'm not going to go away to 5 this year. I'm going to say 3. So my budget this year for Norfolk Aggie is for 8 students, not 12 or more. So that's why that number is going to change. We can fine tune that. I know there's still a transportation piece that needs to come in. They've also significantly lowered their per-student adder for special education. I don't know if any of our kids at Norfolk Aggie have a 504 or an IEP, but what I do know is that it used to be close to 13,000. This year, the number they sent us was 7,600. So I factor that in. I just assume that at least one of our kids takes advantage of that program. There are several smaller ones here. They're mostly self-explanatory. Finance Committee, We need to appropriate enough money to cover your printing and mailing costs for the flyer. The flyer is one of the things that makes the budget process in Douglas much, much more transparent than it is in many other towns, and we'd like to see you guys continue to do that. Council on Aging, you already discussed tonight. Planning Board is asking for $3,000 for training for its members. The Community Development Director is recommending this. There's been some turnover in membership. There's been changes in the regulatory structure. $3,000 might be an efficient use of money to get everybody up to speed with all the activity in the Planning Board and their special permitting activity. Getting everybody up to speed on the regulations is quite important. I reconciled with the police chief the revised current roster. We've had some very recent changes that had a fairly significant impact on the way this budget works out. Coupled with the compensation changes contemplated by the new police contract, proposed police contract, having someone leave at the sergeant level and then promoting from within actually causes a fairly large increase in the overall spending, because we're taking somebody from one salary and then adding it, and then backfilling at the new higher salary that the new compensation table contemplates. So there's a little bit of an engine there. The total increase is going to be close to $250,000. I had to add $50,000 to my initial estimate based on the roster changes. Now, there's a couple of quick changes here for the two management contracts in the police department. The chief, this is no net cost. We're just going to move line items and education incentive. We're going to move it into the base, which is one of the things we did in the contract for everyone. And the lieutenant just recently renewed a contract. This is one item we have absolutely no choice. This contract is not approved by town meeting. It is ratified by the select board, so this contract is in force and contemplated a $6,136 change. On fire and ambulance compensation, I also reconciled those rosters to the new rates of pay in the union contract and actually came up with very small savings amounts. Again, that is due to some change in the roster. It's also due to the fact that we can't lose sight of fall special town meeting already added a substantial sum to the ambulance wages because of the coverage plan that we're using, hiring per diem paramedics. It's in the budget for the full year next year. So you're not seeing a big delta for that. That occurred back in the fall. And that's what I've got right now. I know there's going to be other things. I think probably the next biggest thing that sticks out to me is information technology. Their rates go up every year, but it's also a question of the number of hours it takes to service our account. And I think we under budgeted this year. Frankly, I think we held it back to like $80,000. It should have been more like 100. So they're doing another rate increase next year to get to about, they should be at about a 117. I'm going to try to pull that back, giving them maybe a couple of weeks where they don't come in. Christmas week, so that the IT guys aren't billing us a full day for that. But we just got to stay on top of this. It does help because sometimes there are definitely situations where having two people here means the job gets done in a couple of hours. And one person, even if they were a full-time employee, would really struggle to get it done because there are just some two-person jobs. They're not just doing help desk stuff for IT. They're managing our servers, doing all the updates, all the upgrades, and sometimes having two sets of eyes is solving problems a lot more efficiently than having one person muse about it. The last big bugaboo to me is health insurance. We are going to have our renewal meeting on March 6th in the afternoon with Gallagher. I don't know if you've ever tried to bake one of these fancy pastries in your oven, like a souffle or anything. And sometimes you look in and, it's not rising perfectly, but my guests won't care anyway, right? Then souffle's fancy for them, so we'll pull it out, it'll fall a little bit, it's all right. No, this is a situation where the souffle has boom, exploded in the oven, and there's nothing we can do about it. We had a ridiculously good year last year, where our loss ratio was insanely low. And this year, at this point, we're at 144% of premiums, loss to premium.
Are your claims one-offs, like somebody had a heart attack, or are you looking at?
So I've got two concerns. One is our biggest claims, we believe, are termed, right? So they hit the stop loss attachment point at 150,000. Don't expect them to repeat. Across the entire group, this last year, not just any one time, I'm not going to call anything out specifically, but we've had a couple of trends. A child in the NICU blows the curve. Inpatient mental health care blows the curve. Those don't really affect our rates because they're going to term. They're
Right.
one-time hits.
Right.
They shouldn't really be scored against us, so the underwriter should be taking those things out.
Right, so, but are you, like, got
Our utilization rate,
people who are, like, having chronic illness, that's gonna.
we got a lot of stuff
Yeah,
in the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 range. And utilization is already around 89%. So that's a little bit more concerning because there's an underlying trend there. As you know, we have significant number of programs designed to address chronic illness and give people extra intervention that are done on a per member, per use basis. So we are charged for it, but only if some person uses it. So there's diabetes management, there's a whole bunch of other care programs. There's a second opinion service that the stop loss provider gives us. Stop loss providers are part of the issue here. They're really suffering. The market's looking at anywhere from 8.5% to 13% increase. Now, that's only a fraction of the admin costs of our group, but it's not something we go out to bid every year, so we're expecting there to be price pressure. One thing the underwriter is going to do this year, it is a change, is they're going to take into consideration pharmacy rebates. Our pharmacy rebates are traceable back to our claims because they are associated with the claim. In the past, they were not taken into consideration, now they will be. It's not going to get me, to nirvana. So we will have 2 years of credible data, and they will be weighted probably 40-60, and we'll see where it takes us out. I had budgeted us at a 0 because we've had just a remarkable run. I didn't see any reason to think it would change. It has. I don't think we're looking at double digits either. And the one thing that we'll have to discuss with the select board, because there's be a policy decision to be made here, is we have a very large surplus in this trust fund. So if we had an uncomfortable rate increase, would we structure a 2 to 3 year ramp up using our reserves to soften the blow on our operating budget? I would be inclined to do that. That's why that money was collected from the outset, and I'd rather do that than change any policies that we have.
it might not be as bad as you think it's gonna be.
Yeah, I worry a little. I know some of my colleagues are very happy. We have always overpaid because part of the underwriting conventions being used for Douglas is we are a small group, and we're individually rated within this framework. We don't pool at this level. So we know that we were always a few bad claims away from having a significant increase, so we were always trying to stay ahead of that. So maybe it'll be better than I think. I'd love that. If I came back with a 2.5%, 3%, fine with that, right? But I'm a little worried. The group as a whole is going through its growing pains, but we'll survive somehow. But as terms of the budget, what is left as a major unknown would be property and casualty premium, which Maya may grace us with or not. But I think a lot of the biggest items are in this list I gave you tonight, or the two things I just described to you.
Matt, is it still helpful to have this as reference, or?
Yes.
Or is a lot of it fluid?
No, I think if you're a numbers person and you want to wade through that spreadsheet, you can see the historical data. You can see what we're asking for this year, if anything has changed within the structures of the accounts. Some of the departments never change at all. I think if you're looking to pick up on things, you would probably pick up on the cost of repairs at highway. It's really starting to get aggressive.
Like, for instance, when Patrice was here, she asked for, another 5,000, but here she got 4 total from last year, so that wasn't current, so to speak, so. Is that
I don't know.
going to be throughout?
I'm kind of confused.
Because the difference between the FY '25 budget and the current one for Council of Aging was a total of $4,000.
Yep.
She's asking for 5,000 more.
More. So,
On
well,
top
it's got to
of
be
4,
9,000
That's a new
more.
request,
So
See, that was, the new
9,000
request
more last
wasn't
year.
reflected in this.
because it was a new request.
Right.
So my question is, how many more new requests are there over and above what's going to be in this?
I can't answer that definitively, not too many.
Okay.
Because
Just asking.
department heads know they have to communicate.
Yeah.
And at this point, I think I've got some software expenses that I've got to dig into and see where we are with building. There's probably an additional planning discussion. There's a discussion in Jean's office with regard to staff transition. We're missing some commitment, some definitive answers to questions in order to be able to provide you with those numbers. But, we're talking 5-digit wiggles, not 6-digit wiggles. So I don't really lose sleep over it. I typically don't put this thing to bed until the third week of March,
And then-
so.
I've asked you this before, Matt, but will there be a SharePoint way to kind of?
So all this stuff will be put up to the SharePoint.
It's not up yet, though, is it?
Yeah, the one thing I'm getting a little, I worry about is actually putting the document I'm working on into the SharePoint
I
and
see.
having other people. I would rather do what I did, save it at a version point in PDF. So what people don't realize is if you open the document that I'm working on in the SharePoint, even if I have it open already, you can still open it. You have that permission. Even if you just make a scratch note and then erase it, you have, in fact, created a new version. So what happens to me sometimes is I'll work all day, I have a whole bunch of numbers, SharePoint says it's automatically updating, and all of a sudden it chokes and says, this is no longer the most recent version of this document. Do you want to keep a server copy or keep your own? And it's like, give me a coin, ding. I say keep mine because that's the one that I think is controlling. So rather than just give you read-only permission on the active document, well, I just do a version save, put the date on it, as of this date, and have a PDF, then you can blow it up to see it better and do everything you want to. You just won't see the formulas.
Yeah, okay. Any questions for Matt, anybody?
I have a question. I don't know. When I was going by the old school up there, was there a demolition thing on it now? That one, and I know the old building next to it near the cemetery with the hole in the roof.
So the red sign with the X
Yes.
means unsafe. Do not go into this
Okay.
building at all.
Okay,
The one line across,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, it's not a strike, it's a spare.
okay,
Like, you really shouldn't go in here.
right,
Nothing to see here, move along.
right, right.
Kind of, but it's not unsafe to walk in, to go into it.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So that doesn't mean they're coming down immediately?
The little brown house has got to come down. I've been trying to watch the Capitol meetings. I don't know where you ended up, Mr. Chairman. You're on Capitol. Did you guys vote to tear that little house down?
No, we didn't get that far.
Okay.
I
So
was,
it's been proposed. We elevated it this year as more of a health and safety risk than it has been in the past.
right, right,
Because it's truly deteriorating very badly. The cost there is the asbestos.
right. Well, the other thing too is, because I've just had to taken down a building, and waiting is not a good idea because the cost of getting rid of this stuff is going through the roof.
Yep.
You need to get rid of it as quick as you can, because you wait another year and you're probably going to put another $20,000 or $30,000 into getting rid of it.
Yep.
Get rid of it now.
That's where we're at.
So, anybody else for Matt? So Gene, looking ahead, on March 12, we had police, highway, fire, ambulance, library, and then maybe some more updates from you, Matt? Like grids, like you gave us tonight, or not?
Yeah. And hopefully that will be the last round of that.
Okay. And then Gene, for the 2 March meetings, are both of them going to be in the little room? the resource
So I
room?
think, Matt, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the boards are meeting at the same time, Board of Selectmen and Finance, because of the elections.
Yeah.
So you're on our schedule.
So can you ask Chris, Jean, to
I will.
schedule us for March 12th? And then March 26th is just capital so far?
I wanted to see who else you wanted to join you. We will also have a better idea of what special articles are, so I would expect that maybe Knapp and White would be asked to join us because of any special articles.
And then April 9, what will that?
April 9 will be a public hearing.
That'll be the public hearing, okay. And the town meeting is May 6th.
Correct.
We're going to wait till another meeting to approve minutes. I just got them tonight from Stephanie, so we'll just do that another time for January 23 and January 30.
And if I could just remind you, Mike Fitzpatrick has asked that the March 26th meeting be moved to 6:30.
Oh, right.
Because he will be attending the Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Is that okay with everybody to come at 6:30 on March 26th in the planning board room? Okay. Anybody have anything else?
One quick thing.
Okay, Ryan?
I know in Matt's discussion a few weeks ago, he mentioned a big increase in the library budget. I was just wondering, how do I get, I'd like to hear from Justin on what he and the library trustees' thoughts are, what the library is becoming 10 years down the road.
Well, they'll be here.
I understand that, but I'd like to prepare them for that discussion. How do I, you want me to send them directly to you?
If you can send me the list of questions, I'll forward it to Justin.
Okay, and I'll CC
Oh,
you.
perfect. That'd be great, Ryan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Sandy, thank you for chairing in my absence.
Oh,
It was fun watching it on YouTube. You have real stage presence.
oh, thank you so much.
All right. Motion to adjourn, anybody?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Sandy makes it, Lynn seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. We adjourn at 9:22.
I'm running